From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
Good evening. Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee. Police have issued an all-points bulletin for a well-dressed young white man seen running from the scene.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
President-elect Reagan was in New York City today. He said John Lennon's murder was a great tragedy, that an answer to crime in the streets must be found, but said he did not believe that Lennon's death amounted to an argument in favor of the control of handguns. Reagan was with New York's Terence Cardinal Cook when he spoke.
Well, as I said, what can anyone say? It's a great tragedy, and it's just another evidence of what we have to try and stop happening in this world.
Did you stop that with handgun legislation, Governor?
I've never believed that. I believe in the kind of handgun legislation we have in California. If someone commits a crime and carries a gun when he's doing it, you add 5 to 15 years to the prison sentence.
Gauthier in front of Keller, and that's stopped by Moog. 20 seconds to play. 20 seconds from Stanley Cup number 4 for these New York Islanders. They said they were lethargic midway through the season. Some people said they would turn it on, and they apparently have. Here's Gretzky. The last word for Gretzky and Billy Smith. It's over. And the New York Islanders have won their 4th straight Stanley Cup.
In the Florida morning, it's about 20 till noon in Florida. There are contingency plans for the shuttle when something does go wrong, when something goes terribly wrong.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point.
8:40, and we hear from launch control the vehicle has exploded. That's the orbiter itself, the shuttle Challenger, has exploded. We
Contingency procedures are in effect.
Assume that the crew is not alive. This is unheralded in the history of the space program. Ladies and gentlemen, I have covered the space shuttle launches since the very first launch, since before the first launch itself, going way back, and nothing like this has ever happened. Of course, there was the Apollo fire on the ground at the Kennedy Space Center, the Apollo 1 fire that killed 3 astronauts during a test run back in the 60s, but the shuttle program itself, to this time, has been untouched by any human problem.
Peter, let's tell our viewers what's happened here. You've had a lot of experience with being under attack, of course, from your days in Vietnam and other places.
Well, okay, John, what seemed to have happened about 20 minutes ago, the anti-aircraft weapons in the city center where we are living around the government buildings erupted in fire. There must have been 200 guns firing to the sky. We did not see any aircraft around, but we did hear the alarm sirens. About 2 minutes after that, there were loud explosions, obviously bombing in at least 3 parts of the outskirts of the city. We have no idea what those targets were, but they were in the direction of the airport and some military barracks. John?
All right, Peter. I'm going to go to the window again so our viewers can stay as much in touch with the situation as possible. I've just seen an emergency blue flashing light on a vehicle down on the streets below. You can hear what I can hear, I imagine, and what we both hear is more of that eerie silence we were talking about before this attack began. On the main drag of Baghdad, we just saw one vehicle go by. There was a bus that went by about 10.
Recapping now for you once again, if you've just joined us, an explosion underground in the garage section of the World Trade Center in New York City has killed now 3 people, according to the New York Port Authority, and has injured at least 150 people. Hundreds of people, as we speak, are still being evacuated from the twin-story towers of the structure, and a hotel in the complex as well at the southern tip of Manhattan Island. There were reports earlier of some people being trapped under the rubble. We do understand that's where at least 2 of the fatalities were found. There are still people trapped in the 2 towers, as we say, but EMS and firefighting personnel are at least to the 85th floor of the Twin Towers evacuating these people. They're also being taken off the roof by helicopters.
Explosion caused, because here's now what we are starting to learn about the succession, or what someone obviously hoped would be a succession of explosions. The first bomb that was in the federal building did go off. It did the damage that you see right there. The second explosive was found and diffused. The third explosive that was found, and they are working on right now as we speak, I understand, both the second and third explosives, if you can imagine this, were larger than the first. So try to imagine 2- or 3-fold happening what we've already seen there.
It's a little difficult from the air because the buildings kind of shadow the streets, but no doubt a lot of activity on the ground right now.
And in terms of the firefighting capabilities, when you get up to this high level, I assume the firefighters have got to get up there and, you know, fight it from inside. Oh, if you're taking a look now, you can see that we've just had another explosion, and that is considerably lower. And is that in the other building?
30 seconds
is that what
to go.
I'm witnessing?
Skipper's gear is down and locked. Main gear touchdown. The nose of the shuttle being rotated down toward the flight deck. The parachute being deployed. And nose gear touchdown, and the end of a historic journey. And to the ship that has led the way time and time again, we say farewell, Discovery.